In Florida, two new polls have Democratic Senator Bill Nelson leading narrowly and within the margin of error over term-limited Republican Governor Rick Scott, who is spending tens of millions of his own money. Nelson is ahead 47% to 46 in the UNF poll and 45 to 43 in the USA Today Suffolk poll. In the governor's race, Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum has a 6-point lead over Ron DeSantis in the UNF poll, 49% to 43%, and a 1-point edge in the USA Today poll, 45 to 44%. President Trump, who has taken credit for DeSantis winning the primary, will head to Fort Myers, Florida later today to kick off his final 11 rallies of the 2018 campaign cycle. He has another Florida rally in Pensacola on Saturday.
John Meacham, again, here's just what John Heilman was talking about. Here's the catch-22 for Republicans. Donald Trump can come into your state, a state like Florida. He can gin up the base, make sure they get out and vote. But chances are very good for every one member of the base that he gins up, you've got an independent and a suburban housewife that may have voted Republican in the past that's going to say, oh, hey, wait a second. That guy said really offensive things in my hometown. I've got to make sure that I go out and get 3 people that I go to church with going out and voting against him, too. I mean, it is a catch-22, but Donald Trump doesn't seem to have the discipline or the understanding to get that fact that every campaign appearance he's making now is actually driving up Democrats' numbers.
No, I don't think discipline and understanding will be big themes at the Trump Presidential Library in the fullness of time. Probably not. I think that there's this extraordinary, and this is all anecdotal, I know there's science on it too, polling on it too, that Steve can speak to, but anecdotally, living in a red state with a competitive Senate race, the passion on the Democratic side is really remarkable. And the idea that this is, we finally can do something is what people are saying. You know, there's actually a step one can take instead of just angrily tweeting to one's own followers about how awful the president is. And I wonder if that engagement, if that passion in the kind of suburban places you're talking about is going to be what we're talking about on Wednesday morning, or, as you said about young voters, will the story of Wednesday morning be that there was a lot of angry suburbanites, a lot of angry women, but the Trump base actually came out, even though he wasn't explicitly on the ballot, and saved him from total humiliation. And I think that's the damnable thing about midterm elections, of course, is it's going to fall into one of those two buckets.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.